Good work. Thank you, Ms. Corujedo. I know that students are always in your heart. We can see that. Our next panelist will present a parent's perspective. It is with great pleasure that I introduce Ms. Luz Gonzalez. Ms. Gonzalez is a school choice advocate and National School Choice Week parent representative in Miami. She has presented as an educator or parent in school systems across the country. She has been involved in education reform for the last 25 years. We welcome you, Ms. Gonzalez. Do you want to speak from here? Okay, thank you.
First, I want to thank LULAC for having me here. As a parent, I'm very appreciative of the opportunity to inform and communicate. There are 2 points that the previous speakers have spoken about that I want to address, but first I want to give you a little background as to where I'm coming from. I want to ask a question. Before today's meeting, did all of you here know about Common Core? If you raise your hand if you already knew about Common Core before today's meeting. That's good, because I can tell you I have been traveling all of South Florida from Palm Beach County down to Miami-Dade County, and last night I was in Liberty City at the Urban League meeting, and the large percentage of the population in South Florida is not aware of Common Core, and that's disturbing. That's incumbent on the school board and the school districts in South Florida to tell parents and inform them prior to the fact, and this is my perspective as a parent, that we need communication, not in 2013, but in 2010 when it was first started to be implemented. It gives the appearance of stealth implementation and lack of parental input in the process. And I have a problem with 2 components of Common Core, and I'll be quite honest about it. One is the process, which was not inclusive of parental input, and it should have been inclusive of that if we're sincere in acknowledging that parents are the ones where education begins and ends at home, and also they're the ones that will help their students move to the next level and encourage and put them to a level where we all understand they are best served in the education system. As a school choice advocate, I know very darn well that the cookie cutter approach, which gratefully so many of the previous speakers spoke about, yes, we should not have a cookie cutter approach. Every child is different, and a parent recognizes the differences and knows which type of school choice system works for that child. We need to encourage that. We need to encourage parental involvement. And unfortunately, the whole school choice, the whole Common Core system and process was an absolute push away of the family, push away of the parent, push away of parental involvement in the school. This is how I describe it to parents that I speak to. It's this message. It's very confusing. And as I talk to parents, like I said, in all South Florida, I see Liberty City yesterday, I can tell you, in that urban area, because I am so grateful that this organization understands that we have to recognize the most vulnerable neighborhoods. I have traveled from Alapata, Homestead, Little Haiti. Last year because of school choice, I was in all those neighborhoods and did different contests, art contests. I will be again holding a huge panel discussion at the end of January, beginning of February, relative to school choice. I believe firmly in education reform, but I also believe we have to, in process, include every ingredient for success. And as a parent, I know that the parent must be involved both in the textbook selection process and in communicating with their students the standards that are so important in the testing area. Now, when they talk about curriculum and they say that curriculum and standards are not the same thing, well, I almost look at that as a technicality. Perhaps they're not technically the same thing, but when you have testing and you have standards, you have to get there somehow. And how do you get there? It's the curriculum. So there's no negating the fact that they're tied very much together. You cannot divorce one from the other. So we have to be very conscious of what's happening in our schools in terms of content and textbooks. Now, as I traveled and have seen different educational systems around the country, from Los Angeles to Portland, Oregon, to Menasha, Wisconsin, to Cleveland, Ohio, to Massachusetts, I'm very knowledgeable about the different systems that have worked effectively with students. I know that you cannot add additional layers of educational bureaucracy and expect your neighborhood school to perform well, because you're removing all those near and dear ingredients to success, not just in academic success, but in life success, from the student and the parent. As a parent advocate, I want the parent involved in textbook selection. Last night at the Urban League meeting in Liberty City, the chief academic officer admitted that no parents were involved in the textbook selection process. I know very well, because I communicate with all the parents around the state of Florida, that Broward, which is the 6th largest school district in the country, Miami-Dade is the 4th largest school district in the country, neither one of those school districts with over 300,000 students involved parents in the textbook selection process. I personally have a problem with that. I think we need to include as many people that are invested in success of education in the process. So like I said, I have a problem with the process, and I truly and sincerely believe that we need to pause this until everyone and every parent there was a great statement yesterday by United Way, and she said something that really struck in my heart, and that is, just because you're not, as a parent, you're not educated, and if you go to the most vulnerable neighborhoods, you're going to see a problem with some of the parents that are not as educated as we're expecting the students to be educated now currently. She said the most beautiful thing, and it really did stick in my heart. She said, just because you're not educated doesn't mean you can't be an advocate for education. It's beautiful. Stop assuming that parents don't want to be involved. Stop assuming that they are not as knowledgeable. Stop assuming that they cannot add value to the education system, because, as I said, I really firmly believe the move in Common Core, because of the process and the content, is removing parents from empowering and helping their individual student and child in the classroom. We need to involve parents, not remove them. So, as we go through, I got cut off and I had so much to say. Those are the things I wanted to talk about, but I got so engaged in the process myself that hopefully in the question and answer, if you have any additional questions, please ask me. Thank you so much.